What if a modern jetliner carrying nearly 240 people simply vanished mid-flight? No mayday call, no radar trail, no crash site. One moment it's cruising calmly above the clouds, and the next, it's gone. That may sound like a twist in a movie plot, but it's a real-life enigma, one that still confounds aviation experts, governments, and families to this day. This is the story of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, the flight that disappeared without a trace. A mystery that has gripped the world for over a decade. On March 8, 2014, MH370 took off from Kuala Lumpur, heading for Beijing. It never made it. What followed was a global search effort, endless theories, heartbreaking stories of loss, and a haunting question: how can a plane just disappear in the 21st century? Today we'll break down the full story. What happened, the timeline, the investigation, the key clues, and the lasting impact. Flight MH370 was a routine red-eye service from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia to Beijing, China. It was operated by a Boeing 777-200ER, a modern, long-range aircraft known for its excellent safety record. On board were 239 people, 227 passengers and 12 crew from 14 different countries. Most were from China and Malaysia, but there were also passengers from Australia, Indonesia, India, France, and the United States. The captain was Zahari Ahmad Shah, a 53-year-old veteran pilot with over 18,000 flight hours. Known for his professionalism, Zahari had been with Malaysia Airlines for over 3 decades. His co-pilot, Farik Abdul Hamid, was 27 and on his final training flight before becoming a fully certified first officer. The plane took off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport at 12:41 a.m. local time. Everything appeared normal. The aircraft climbed to its cruising altitude of 35,000 feet. Communication with air traffic control was routine. At 1:19 a.m., the last radio message was transmitted from the cockpit: "Good night, Malaysian 370. Just minutes later, the plane's transponder, a key device that communicates location data to air traffic control, was manually turned off. MH370 disappeared from civilian radar. But military radar picked up something strange. An unidentified aircraft made a sudden left turn, veering west across the Malay Peninsula and out over the Strait of Malacca, the opposite direction of its planned flight path. That radar contact vanished at 2:22 a.m. After that, the plane was never seen again. Initially, authorities thought it might be a technical glitch. It wasn't until hours later that the flight was officially declared missing. What began as confusion soon turned into a global search, and one of the greatest aviation mysteries of our time. A deliberate disappearance? What shocked investigators early on was that this wasn't a sudden mechanical failure. The plane's communication systems, the transponder, and a system called ACARS, which transmits performance data, were deliberately disabled. This required technical knowledge and access to the cockpit. The transponder turned off first, then ACARS stopped transmitting. That timing pointed toward human intervention. The Inmarsat satellite pings Murmurran. With no radar contact, authorities turned to satellite data. British company Inmarsat had been passively receiving handshake signals from the plane. Brief pings confirming the aircraft's satellite terminal was still powered. These pings didn't include GPS data, but they allowed experts to estimate where the plane had flown, based on signal timing and Doppler shifts. Analysts mapped out 2 possible corridors, one stretching north over Central Asia, the other south over the Indian Ocean. Military radar and other clues ruled out the northern path. That left the southern Indian Ocean, one of the most remote and inhospitable parts of the planet. The final satellite ping came at 8:19 a.m., nearly 7 hours after takeoff. By then, the plane would have run out of fuel. The best guess? It crashed somewhere along the so-called 7th Arc, a sweeping band of ocean thousands of kilometers west of Australia. The search begins in the wrong place. At first, search and rescue teams focused on the South China Sea, the area where MH370 was last seen on civilian radar. But once the Inmarsat data came to light, the search shifted dramatically to the southern Indian Ocean. This was a massive challenge. The area was enormous, about 120,000 square kilometers, roughly the size of the U.S. state of Nevada. The ocean depths reached over 6,000 meters in places. The seafloor was rugged, largely unmapped, and difficult to scan. Still, from 2014 to early 2017, dozens of ships, aircraft, and underwater drones scoured the ocean using sonar and cutting-edge mapping tech. It was the largest, most expensive search in aviation history, but no wreckage was found in the primary search zone. Debris discovery. Then, In July 2015, over a year after the disappearance, a piece of the plane finally surfaced. A flaperon, part of the wing, washed ashore on Reunion Island, off the coast of Africa, thousands of kilometers from the suspected crash site. It was the first confirmed physical evidence that MH370 had crashed in the ocean. More debris followed. Aircraft fragments turned up in Mozambique, Madagascar, South Africa, and Mauritius. Some were interior components, suggesting possible breakup on impact or mid-air disintegration. Still, these finds raised as many questions as they answered. The main wreckage, and crucially, the black boxes, have never been located. To understand why MH370 hasn't been found, you need to understand how aviation tracking works and where it falls short. When planes fly over land, they're usually tracked by ground-based radar and required to check in frequently. But over oceans, radar coverage becomes limited or non-existent. In these areas, position reports are often done manually by radio, at intervals. Back in 2014, there were no international rules requiring continuous tracking of aircraft over remote oceans. A plane could go dark for long stretches, and no one would know, unless something went wrong. And when MH370 did go dark, it went completely dark. Intentionally, it seems. Finding a plane in the ocean is a daunting task. The Indian Ocean is especially difficult. It's one of the least mapped regions on Earth. The seafloor is mountainous and chaotic, with shifting sediments and extreme depths. Combine that with unpredictable currents and limited search windows due to harsh weather, and you start to see why the task is so monumental. Even with modern sonar, the wreckage may be in a crevice, buried under sediment, or simply in an area no one has searched yet. While the technical details are fascinating, at its core, MH370 is a human story. The people on board were parents, children, students, professionals, each with lives and loved ones waiting for them. The pain their families have endured is almost impossible to describe. For weeks, months, and years, they waited for answers. Some clung to hope. Others demanded accountability and transparency. Many formed support networks, traveled across countries to attend briefings, and even funded their own investigations when official efforts ended. Without physical evidence or final confirmation, some relatives struggled to move on. Grieving became complicated. How do you mourn someone when you don't know what happened to them? The family's persistence helped keep the story alive in the media and pushed governments to reopen searches. Their resilience is a powerful part of this story. MH370 exposed major flaws in how the aviation industry tracked planes over oceans. Before 2014, it was possible for large commercial aircraft to effectively disappear, with no automatic location updates and few real-time monitoring tools in place. Since the disappearance, the industry has made significant changes. Planes are now required to report their positions every 15 minutes during oceanic flights, and more frequently if there's an abnormal event. Airlines are adopting new satellite tracking systems like ADS-B, which continuously broadcasts an aircraft's location, speed, and altitude. Authorities are also working toward installing flight data recorders with automatic ejection systems and cloud-based backups, so even if the wreckage is never recovered, vital flight data might still be accessible. Search and rescue coordination among countries has also improved, with more efficient protocols and greater data sharing. These reforms aim to make it much harder for a plane to vanish without a trace and ensure quicker, more effective responses in the event of an emergency. With so few answers, theories about what happened to MH370 have filled the void. 1. Pilot suicide. One leading theory is that Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah intentionally diverted the plane. A flight simulator at his home included a route into the southern Indian Ocean. The shutdown of communication systems, the sharp turn back over Malaysia, these moves suggest deliberate action. Some believe Zahari may have locked out his co-pilot, depressurized the cabin to incapacitate passengers and crew, and flown the plane until it ran out of fuel. But no clear motive has ever been confirmed. Zahari had no known mental health issues or personal troubles. This theory remains deeply unsettling, but possible. 2. Hijacking. Initially, authorities suspected hijacking. 2 passengers were found to be traveling on stolen passports, but they were later identified as asylum seekers. No group ever claimed responsibility. No demands were made. The level of coordination required to hijack a plane and avoid all detection is extremely high and still lacks evidence. 3. Mechanical failure. Could a fire or sudden system failure have knocked out communications? Maybe, but this wouldn't explain the sharp changes in direction or the long, controlled flight path into the Indian Ocean. 4. Hypoxia. The ghost plane theory. Some suggest a slow cabin depressurization rendered everyone unconscious. The plane would have continued flying on autopilot until fuel ran out. This scenario is similar to the 2005 Helios Airways crash. But MH370 made multiple turns, movements that imply manual control well beyond the point when hypoxia would have set in. Number 5. Military mistake or government cover-up. More speculative theories suggest MH370 was shot down accidentally or intercepted because of sensitive cargo or passengers. These theories cite early confusion and secrecy from authorities. But no strong evidence supports this, and governments have consistently denied any involvement. Flight MH370 is more than an aviation mystery. It's a reminder of the limits of technology, the vastness of our planet, and the very real human cost of unanswered questions. For the families of those on board, the pain continues. Many still hope for closure, for the wreckage to be found, for the black boxes to be recovered, and for the truth to finally come to light. The ocean still holds its secrets, but new technologies and private search efforts may yet change that. One day, a sonar ping or a new clue might finally tell us what happened that early morning in March 2014. Until then, the story of MH370 stands as both a tragedy and a lesson about preparedness, transparency, and the need for systems that ensure no flight can simply vanish ever again. Thanks for watching. If this story fascinated you, hit that subscribe button. We dive deep into unsolved mysteries, lost history, and stories that still matter. Because sometimes the truth just takes a little longer to surface.